the fracture types in our restorations are absolutely the same, or we have to focus in a type of restoration that can allow and can show us different type of fracture, and so even better if it's a favorable fracture compared something that is more catastrophic. So the idea is we do our restoration. We can do crown, overlay restoration, direct restoration like a filling, and we are not only focused on what is the follow-up, but the time that this restoration is going to fail, what is the type of fracture that we have to approach with. The idea is that we consider as failure, but many times we have just complications, because a real failure, it depends on where we decide to put the borderline. A failure could be I have to remake my restoration, or a failure could be I have to extract the tooth because the fracture is so severe that I have to replace my tooth with an implant. So in my opinion, we have to consider that even if we have to substitute an onlay or a restoration is a failure, but that type of failure that is absolutely catastrophic and is a real failure is the fracture of the root, where you cannot have any possibility to restore again, okay? Then, talking about this, in this article of published of International Journal of Aesthetic Dentistry, issue 2 in 2021, we did this manuscript, we did this study with my aesthetics research group, and with this group of friends and former students, we had the focus of the fracture resistance of different type of restorations. But we also investigated the type of fracture that we have with the different type of restorations. So just to give you a summarization of the article, but we spoke about it in the previous video, so you can watch it. We see that we compared a sound tooth, a full crown, minimal full crown with a 0.6 chamfer, and then 3 overlay types design that we published in 2017 as the main classification of aesthetics protocols and aesthetics approach. So they are bi-joint, following an occlusal plan but with a flat peripheral part. We have shoulder that is going around, and we have a bevel, but circumferential bevel, so a full bevel. Then, going to the type of results that we obtained, that we observed, we have seen that an important aspect, that any type of fracture in this representation of the simulation, with many bias for sure, of the reality, we didn't have a severe fracture, because we classified, we had these 4 type of fracture: just a crack on the ceramic, as type 1, type 2, fracture on the ceramic, type 3, a fracture on ceramic and on the tooth, and type 4, fracture on ceramic, tooth and root. This type 4, that is the most dangerous, was the one that we had something positive, because even if we achieved the root with the fracture, we didn't have fracture that was more than 1 millimeter, 2 millimeters. So anyway, all this type of observation that we had something that was easily repairable compared to a vertical fracture of the root. Okay, this is the first point. Then the majority of the fracture were absolutely positive and easily repairable, or just to remake the restoration. We add on into groups, into type of situation, the 50% of fracture type 4. The one was the sound tooth, and the second one was the shoulder. The one that have only an observation of a crack was the bad joint, and the best in terms of numbers, so limited in numbers, in fracture type was the full crown. So we can have many reflection. Anyway, the fracture that of the crown that was not the best, maybe the worst, in terms of strength, in terms of Newton that you have to apply, in this case, was the best in terms of limited involving root in the fracture. But in my opinion, also in the other partial restoration, in overlay type restoration, we had absolutely acceptable results. And so my goal is not now to describe all the data of the article that you can easily study, you can easily approach it because it's already published. And the idea is that with a minimal approach, with an adhesive approach, we can contain the catastrophic fracture and failures, and then we have always to prefer this type of approach when we do a restoration in a posterior tooth. Definitely in a posterior or in anterior, but in this case we are talking about posterior. So, share with your friends this content if you find it interesting. Follow us on our social media channels, and see you at the next content. Do better than yesterday.